Okay, so the first question was easy enough. It was just literally select star from retail, where retailer home pride. That question was a simple question. We now move down to question 1.2, and it says write a query that will list the description and price of all RTBL items. So the description and price, so it's only requiring 2 fields. Here it says list all the details, which means that we use the star function. So don't be silly and only display one thing. SQL, sometimes people get tricked out about small things like that. Like here it says all details and then it'll only display 1 or 2 fields. It means all. So then you use star, whereas here they say description and price. So now if you say star, you're not answering the question because it only asked for description and price. So just be careful of things. I think it's silly marks to lose, and it's a bit tricky of them, but that's the way it is. So you make sure you answer it to what is asked. Of all items from TBL items that cost between 350 and 500 inclusive of both values. So if we now go through to our database, it's very similar. We're now still selecting from TBL items. So I'm just going to change. We only want description. And what does the other one we want? We want price from TBL items. Now in our where statement, we now got a condition. There is a function where I think you can say between, but I never know how to do that. So I'm just going to say where price is greater than or equal to, what's the minimum price it said? 350, but it's inclusive of the value, so it must be equals. You must make sure you include the equals. And so now you say and. Now a thing that another common error that people do is they don't say the field again, less than or equal to 500. So it is inclusive of those values. So then we can run that just to make sure we haven't made any silly mistakes. Not made it. Now you check I made a silly mistake. Description is not spelled the same as description there. Yeah. Oops. So I go back and I then go and I say the description. So you make sure of things like that. Run it to make sure you haven't done any silly mistakes. Copy and paste it back into the Word documents. Make sure you'll get marks. This is 1.2 point, and then we'll go there. Now the next one, 1.3 point. I was hoping it was actually going to. You should also be given a preload where you'll be able to answer the questions, and there you won't have to actually create a document yourself. I just created a document myself because I didn't have that preload available. Anyway, question 1.3 says write a query that will list all couples and TBL couples. You must list the couple name as well as the month of their wedding, and the results should be ordered by the month in ascending order. A new field for the couple name should be called couple name and consist of the bride name followed by an ampersand system followed by the groom name. The correct output is given below. Okay, so what we're doing is if we look at the couples here, there's a bride and a groom name here. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. So there's a bride and there's a groom name, and the wedding date needs to be by month. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to worry about the output first. So we know we want the bride name, and we know we wanted an ampersand, so we're going to put ampersand is to concatenate a string. So we use the ampersand to concatenate a string. We're going to ampersand an ampersand. I don't know if I look at the output. It's funny that we're going to ampersand and ampersand, but if we look at the output, there's also a space between. So in other words, if I left that space out, because they showed the output here, I think that you would lose the mark because you didn't put a space here. Otherwise, the surname and the first name would look too close together. So you need to make sure that you append a space in the ampersand sign, not just an ampersand sign. So you'll see here that I've got a space character, then an ampersand sign, then a space character, and then that's the literal. They call that a literal. So what you physically put in, hard-coded in, is called a literal in this. So we're putting a literal of that. Now the next thing that we've got there is we're going to put the groom name. So groom name. And also we want the month of, so that's the one field, right? Mm-hmm. The second field we want the month of the wedding date. And did it say that we needed to name anything? Month of wedding. So we need to call it as month of wedding. If it had a space in it, so in other words it was month space of space wedding, you'd put it in square brackets. So if that was the case, I'd put it in square brackets here, square brackets at the end, but I don't need to because it's one word. Thank you. And here it should be as couple name. Now, then we're from, and this is from TBL couples. Now, with the TBL couples, we would now need to then we needed to do a order by, and we're ordering by now some people, and sorry, I always forget to do this, but a lot of people prefer to do things like this. So they'll put each major clause, so they'll select all the fields, then they'll go from which tables, order by what, where, what. So they'll put like each new sort of category in a new line, and I think that some people like looking at that better because it helps them understand the syntax. So I know that I tend to code it all in one line, but there are separate sort of ideas. You're selecting these fields from that table, order by, and here we're ordering by the month of the wedding date. So we include the month of the wedding date. We run it to test if this is working and no weird glitches happen. Cool, let's compare it to the output of the memo thing. So it says Wanda and Albert Richardson 4, Simon 7, 8, sweet. We're good, we're the same as that they showed there. So we're now going to copy and paste this into Word. So copy and paste it into Word. Now, that's funny. Alright, so now that we've got that into Word, we're now going to move on to question 1.4, and 1.4 states currently the available field for each of record and TBL gifts is set to false. This field should be true for any registered gift which has a bought quantity that is less than the requested quantity. Write a query that will update the available field in the TBL gifts table accordingly. So now we're having to update a field based on a select statement. Does this make sense? What I'm saying to you.
That's tough.
So now we're doing an update based on a select. So we are going to now have to go and work with this now. How to do an update? So we look at the. So we're going to say. This is going to be interesting. I have solved this before. I just can't remember how I solved it. But let's take a look at this. So it's saying that we need to update the available to false if it's inside the TBL items, or which way around? It's TBL gifts.
If the one quantity is bigger than the other.
Okay, cool. So we look at it's in the same table, isn't it? So if the bought quantity is bigger than it should be set to true. Now if it's less than, it should be set to true. So basically, if the one item is less than the other item, then it should be set to true.
All inside of table gifts.
Field is set to false. This field should be set to be true if it is less than. Okay, cool. So let's do this. So we're going to basically say, so let's problem solve this, because I don't know how to do this off heart. But let's just go update TBL gifts set. So, okay, some people prefer each new line. So set available to equal true. And then next line, where bought. Okay, this is easier than I thought if this works, because we over made it difficult, didn't we? Quantity, is that right? Bought quantity is greater than, sorry, is less than requested quantity. Does that make sense? So if I now run this, so if I go back to my design tools, run it, it says I'm about to update 75 rows. So I believe that would be correct. So I go yes, and now I'm going to close the gifts table and reopen it. Okay, so you check some of them are true now, right? So it looks to be correct, because all the ones that are less. So this statement worked. It was easier than what I'd feared. When I read it, it was something we hadn't really seen before, updating based on a condition. But the condition, it was actually quite a clever question, and I liked it. So literally update TBL gifts, set it to be true where the quantity is greater less than that.
Made it look complicated.
Yeah, it made it look more complicated, but when we actually broke it down into steps, it was quite simple. Okay, write a query that will show the average price of all items containing the word platter for each retailer TBL items. The output should be as followed. Okay, so we know this is a group by, so we're doing an average. So first we do what we want to select, and we want to select, oh, I'm doing it inside, should I try this?
No.
So we can see it, okay. So we should do it inside access. So we're going to select AVG, open brackets, price, right? But we know we want to display the retailer first, don't we? So retailer, comma, average price. And if we look at the example data, it's called average item price. So as AVG item price. Now, from which table are we doing this from?
TBL items.
Now, TBL items. So from TBL items, and we know because we've got an aggregate function, we're grouping by the retailer, because we've got an average, so we'd have to group by the other fields. We want to display the retailer and the average price of them. But there was something else that they said here. They said containing the word platter, so it has to be a condition based on the fact that it's containing the word platter. So now I always forget which the order is. I forget if where becomes before or after group by. So basically what you can do is I think it comes before, but if it doesn't work, I try it after. So this I suppose why it helps doing it line by line is you can then just swap them around if you do each sort of base condition. So if I go where the description like it contains the word platter, so it means anywhere in it should contain the word platter. Okay, now if we run this, hey, decor center 511.45, FunMart 274.1754. So that is correct. We answered 100% correct. The SQL where comes before group by. Remember that SQL in a nutshell, it shows you the order of things, and that does help because sometimes the order of things, if it's where before group by or group by before where, that can stop the having sort of things. So you need to remember the order of the commands, and I think that's a big thing to sort of work with. But as I said, I could have just, if where didn't work here, I would have put where behind group by and see if it worked. So that's why I suppose putting it line by line does help, because then you can quite easily just swap them around. Okay, so now I've done question 1.5. We're now going to go to question 1.6. And for question 1.6, the question states, write a query that will display the total price of all items not listed in any couple's registry. Your items should be as followed. Okay, so here you're wanting the total price of all items that are not listed in any couple's registry.
So not in...
Yeah. So we're going to say select sum, because we're doing the total price, and it asks us to call as total price. So as total price from TBL items, where item ID is not in select. I'm going to put this on the new line where it is not in, and then we're going to list select item ID from TBL gifts. Does that make sense? So I'm basically saying select the total price from TBL items where the item ID is not in the item ID of TBL gifts, because TBL gifts is the registry, is what the people have chosen to put in the registry. So if I run that, it says fail. So where TBL item is not in, where item ID, capital I for one, I suppose I don't know if that's the issue. Item ID is not in, maybe this should be in brackets. Run. Oh, there we go. So go figure. If you have a mistake, don't be scared.
I'm pretty sure it was just a capital I, actually.
Okay, I think it was a brackets person, but let's test it. Okay, so there's no capital I, no, so it's access. Access isn't case sensitive.
Oh, it's not.
So if I run this now, you see it's the error, so it's because the query is without the brackets, so you need to put the brackets there. So you'll see that if I put the brackets in and I run it, it'll come up with 5609.15, 5609.15. So we're perfectly good. We then copy this across into here. We would then cool. Oh, hello. Don't do that. Hard to lose marks. Okay. Now at 1.7, go back to the questions. 1.7, write a query that will display all gifts and how many are available for each couple. You should display the bride name, the description of the item, and a new field called quantity available in your output. Quantity available is the number of items available for the couple of a particular gift use the requested quantity and the bought quantity for this value. Order your output by bride name alphabetically and by the quantity available from smallest to largest. The order of the bride name and columns is important to the output. The description of the column and order may vary. The first 12 rows of the correct are given below. Okay, so it's quite important that what we do is we tackle this one by one. So the first thing we're wanting is the bride name and description. So easy enough. Select bride name, only the bride name. The groom doesn't matter. We know this. Okay, and then it's wanting the description. Now the description field is from the TBL items category. So we know we're working with 3 tables here. So, and we want description. So far we know that we've got a field from. So if I've got my second line as my from, I know that I'm working from TBL couples, and I know that I'm working from TBL items. Does that make sense? But technically, I also do know that we also have from TBL gifts, because TBL gifts has got the quantity, but we'll get there when we get to the question. So bride name and description, that's what we know so far. It then says quantity available, meaning how much should be a quantity available. Now the quantity available is bought quantity, bought quantity minus requested quantity minus bought quantity. So we're going to say requested quantity minus bought quantity. Does that make sense? What did they ask us to call it? Quantity available. Okay, now we know we've also got a third table, and the third table is TBL gifts. So TBL gifts. So we have all 3 tables, and now in our where condition we know that we just then need to go and link those tables. So how do these tables link? TBL gifts dot couple ID is linked to TBL couples dot couple ID. So that's how those 2 tables are linked. And how's the other tables, and how's the other table linked? So now we've linked one table together, but we did this table and this table are now linked, but we now also need to link items to this, and items is linked via here, item ID. So we know that item ID is the other foreign key that links these 2 tables. So that's how all 3 of these tables are linked together. There's only one link between the links, is only one way. So like in other words, TBL gifts links to couples and to description. So it kind of deals with both. So now if we go here, we go to TBL items dot item ID is equal to TBL gifts dot item ID. So now we've got the table working, but there is something different. So let's just test this so we can make sure we're on the right track so far before we add stuff. Requested quantity, it's me being silly again with spelling. Requested quantity, I've got a T there. So just be careful with stuff like that. So if I run that, so if it comes up with a field not known, it means it's you're referring to a field that doesn't exist. So now if I look at this, it's now coming up with the answers, isn't it? So we're happy with that. If those also coming up with 0, I'm not sure if we're meant to be coming up with 0 or not. So we need to now go to the next part of the question. So it says, write a query that will display gifts and how many are available for each couple. You should display the bride name, the description, and the item in a new field, quantity available, blah blah, number of items still available for that particular year. Use the requested quantity and blah blah blah. So we've done that so far. Now it says order your output by the bride name alphabetically. Okay, so we now need to order by alphabetically. So we're going to the next section. So sometimes it's even a nice idea to sort of segment your question out if it is a long one like this. So I'm now going to go to the SQL view, and I'm going to say I now want to order by, and I want to order by bride name, right? Comma, so that'll be alphabetically, and then by quantity available, smallest to largest. So then we just go, and then by now the quantity available is the requested quantity minus bought quantity. So you do that thing again, and smallest to largest, which it would be automatically. Then the order of bride name and quantity columns is important for the output. The description of the column order may vary. The first 2 givens are below. So they didn't say anything about excluding if there's 0 of that item left, so we are good with this. So let's just run this. and you'll notice there 0, 1, it is working, but it's not the same answer, is it? Because they've got the 1s available there, and Diane Kennedy is the first, which we've got as well, but we do have the quantity available 0. So according to them, so obviously in the questions we are meant to disclude anywhere where the quantity available is 0, because of the fact that the output's showing there. But I don't see anywhere in the question they've asked that. Do you guys?
So do you output by brand name alphabetically?
Because I've got, if you look here in my results, I have the same answer. The Diane Kenny is first, and she has the 1s, she has the 2s, and then it goes through to Emily Young. And if you look at their answer, it goes the 1s, it's got the 2s, and then it goes to Emily Ryan.
12 rows of the correct output are given below.
So, Fleur des Pillow by Emily Ryan. Emily Ryan, our first one of Emily Ryan is the wedding horizontal. But the pillow is there. Okay, so I personally feel that this is the correct answer that I've given, but I can see here they don't include anywhere where the value is 0. So, but I don't see anything in here that is showing me that it tells me I should disclude something where the gifts are 0, but here it does. So I'm just going to include something to now exclude the gifts to be 0, but I think this would get you full marks anyway, because you mark the answer, not the thing. But yeah, maybe there is somewhere there that they are indicating that. I've spent more time looking at the question. So now I'm just going to say and requested quantity, bless you, quantity minus bought quantity is greater than 0. Okay, so if I run this now and I get the results, it now says seafood, aluminium. Okay, well, the orders slightly vary, it's fine. And I think that's why it says it there. The first 12 main rows of the correct item are given below, but it does say that the order might vary a little bit. But that looks more like what they've got because they don't include 0 in theirs. So if I go back to the SQL statement here, I'm going to copy and paste this across into my answers. Control V. Cool. Then we go into the next question, 1.8. The last SQL question, then we go through to Java. So now question 8 says there, Suzanne Smith, capital ID 9, do not have any gift registered in TBL gifts. They decide they want all the same gifts as the same quantities, etc. as Linda Baker. And Eric Cook, couple ID 2. Write a query to insert the same gifts that couple ID 2 has requested for couple ID 9. The new record should have a bought quantity of 0 and available of true. Do you guys get that? So let's go and do this. So we're going to literally say insert into TBL gifts. So now we put in the field values we want. So we in TBL gifts we want item ID, comma couple ID, comma requested quantity, comma bought quantity, comma available. Do you guys get that? I'm just listing all the fields in the same order that they're there. Easy enough, right? Values, now we're going to select the values. Now values is slightly different because in the values now we are going to select. Now here you don't use brackets if I remember correct, because I made the mistake last time. You don't use brackets here. I go select and I say I want item ID, comma, couple ID now is 9, right? So we can put in a literal character. In a select statement you can put a literal character. 9 will now just be 9. So we put that as literal. Requested quantity we want to select, so we will put there requested quantity. Bought quantity we know is going to be 0, isn't it? Because 0 have been bought for this new client, so we put in a literal of 0. And then the next one, available, we know should be true. Now, here's the thing, I'm not sure if it will be true or it will be 1, but I think true is correct. You just say they're true. Or it might be yes in access. So you just try different things. But select item ID 9, requested quantity 0, true, from, so I'm just going to also put this on a new line, from TBL gifts where couple ID is equal to 2. Is that correct? 2. Okay, so now if I run this, it should say I want to insert X amount of rows. And syntax error in, okay, so here is not working, so let's try in brackets. Run it, syntax error and select item ID.
It spells right.
The true might also be an issue. No, the syntax means there's something wrong with the. So let me try yes.
True have to be inside of like inverted commas.
Maybe. I'm going to try yes first. I'm sure that the select shouldn't be like that, but I'll tell you what. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to take out my insert into, and I'm just going to get this statement to be correct.
Cool.
And then we can, once we've done that, okay, so 920 -1. So yes is -1. So yes is working. Let's just try true as well to see if true was correct or not. So true, run. Same thing. Okay, I never knew -1 was the value of true. Okay, so true would also work. So now we do know that that statement is correct. So it's this part that is being iffy. Insert into TBL items values. Select that. Insert into TBL gifts item ID, couple ID, requested quantity, bought quantity, available. Same order. Values. Interesting. As me being stupid, you don't need, when doing this, you don't say values. You just say insert these fields, select these fields. The term values is you only use for them. That's just a matter of remembering. I don't know why it doesn't have values there, but now it says, do you want to append 11 rows?
Clever.
So you just don't need the word values there. I think to me that logically doesn't make sense, but it's just something we need to remember. If you're inserting from a select statement, do not include the term values before the values you've got. So we're about to append 11 rows now, so we go yes, we're happy with that, that works. So we copy this and we put it into our answers. This was me cheating, well not cheating, looking at another paper which had an insert select, which obviously you guys wouldn't be able to do in your finals. Okay, so for an insert select, you just make sure there's no values. You say insert into this table, these fields, select these values, whatever. So you don't actually need to put their values. The character of the syntax of values was wrong. So this must not be there. Okay, and then that would work. So we're good. We're now done with the SQL statement. We can now move on to the Java statement. We have another 15 minutes left to this lesson. 15 minutes of Java. So for the URP section, we're not going to do the whole URP. We're just going to talk through the hard section. Unfortunately, it means that strange enough, this question is sometimes badly answered. And if I remember correctly, this one was badly answered. The equals method. In the equals method, it's just you must make sure your data type that you return is Boolean. So your syntax of that would be public Boolean open brackets, and then you would receive. So for this method, it says this method should accept two strings as parameters that indicate the day, and the venue respectively. This should return true if the wedding is on that date and venue. Properties shall be passed as parameterized otherwise, and false otherwise. Okay. So now you're going to say the Boolean it should be equals. Now here you're technically actually overriding because an object has an equals function as well. So this will receive, so you're overloading the method because there's already an equals there, which would receive through the object parameter. So string day, comma, string, what was the other thing that I needed? Venue. And then what you would do then is you would then say, and it was weird, I felt this was quite weird, the fact that this is what people battle with, but they did get this one wrong. And now with that, you would then indent and you would go, if, actually what you could do, this is something, excuse me for doing this, but day dot equals, what are the fields at the top here? Wedding date. So day dot equals open brackets wedding
hard to do without control spacebar.
Yeah, and venue, or what is it called in this case? It's called venue. So you would go this dot venue dot equals open brackets venue, and then that would actually work. One thing to note there is that because of the fact that I'm just returning this statement directly, but you understand this statement here checks both if the day is equal to the wedding dates and the venue is equal to the venue, then it will return true. I found it quite strange that a lot of people got that question wrong, because it is quite an easy question, but it was just because it's not commonly asked. They were like freaking out, man. But it is an easy enough question. Alright, to make sure here when you do your two strings, easy marks to lose if you don't do it properly, so please ensure you do that properly. You'll notice there that there's also a space between and, so again, stupid marks to lose if you leave those things out. Use the class diagram below. Here they have got the wedding garden or wedding lake, so they'll book. A booking date will be, and a garden would be booked and a lake would be booked by the looks of it. Okay, get overbooked. You would have to here worked with the booking date and the wedding. Where's the wedding object? There's this object here. It's difficult to do without having the data in there, because now here you've got the wedding date, the venue, the integer guest. So here would store the guests and not inside here. So now it's saying if it's overbooked, as if the venue, so here it takes the number of guests. Okay, where's it getting the... Okay, so let's read this question. It says there, write a method called getOverbooked that would return a string indicating the venues, if any, are overbooked on that date. A venue is overbooked if the number of guests exceed the capacity of the venue. The garden venue can hold 130 guests, and the lake venue can hold 160 guests. Use the getGuests functions from the garden and lake. That's easy enough, actually, eh? Yeah, you just get the guests. Sorry, that was easy enough. It confused me at first because I was like, there's no guest, but I should read the question because it tells me that a garden venue is this many, that many. So that's just a matter of statements. That's an easy enough question.
Wasn't that your phone?
Everyone's going, it thinks it's special. It's all good. So now the next one will be write the code to string. That's just loop through, nothing difficult about that. It does put it in a specific format, there's no worries. If there's no weddings booked on that date, this toString is slightly different. It comprises of the information of the booking date. The string is returned should be following format: booking date, new line. Use the toString methods garden and lake respectively. Use the getOverbooked to display overbooked venues. For example, garden venues. Note that there are not be a garden or a lake wedding booked, then a null field will be returned and it should actually display that. So it's telling me if there is no actual wedding booked on that day, it should display no wedding booked. So then that's dealing with a null term, and the null you'll just basically go you'll just say if open brackets the wedding, so let's say garden is equal to null, and what was the other one, the lake is equal to null. That's how you would check if it's null, and then you would just append the string to whatever your string that you called. So if I called it sall, which is what we would commonly call it, then I'll just say sall plus equals, and then you'll say no wedding booked. The reason why it looks like on the, if we go later in the question, they actually make a booking item for every single day of the year, and then they only add the weddings on the days that they have them in that schedule. So that's why there would be occasions where there are days where no weddings are booked.
That seems like bad database technique.
Bad memory more than database, but it just means that you're going to be loading every single day into RAM. Well, I suppose potentially then you have it ready, so when you add a wedding, it will just pop straight into it. But yeah, I do hear you. It's a bit odd. Write code to create a new class called Venue Manager, an array that will exactly store 50 wedding objects, and an array to store exactly 30 booking objects. one object for each day of month of November 2016. And then it says write code on the constructor that will read through this, check if the file exists. If it doesn't, open the file for reading, loop through the file 50 items. So here they 50 times. Here they're actually exactly saying how many items there are in the array, and then in the text file, instead of doing the variable length. But you can still do it by variable length because it will end on that day. Read each line and it separates. Create a wedding object using the data wedding. Add the wedding object to the array. Note, you do not need to create any booking date objects in this method. So that's very important. You do not create any booking dates objects in this method. Write code that will create a method called list all weddings. This method should return a string containing all weddings with objects of the toString. Each wedding detail should be on a new line. Easy enough, right? Okay, so write code to get weddings on day that will search the array of wedding objects for all weddings on a particular day and return the wedding object. This method should accept two string parameters, the first representing the date and the search for, and the second parameter of the venue. Okay, if no matches are returned, then return null or null. Now this one is quite important for the next stage, because the next stage you're going to create 30 days of bookings for the month of November, and then you're going to add it into there. Write code to create a method that will populate the bookings array into the code on there. Do you guys understand this method? Yeah, you basically just going to be doing a search if it is on that day, which you have the equals method, don't you? So you would use the dot equals method you created earlier, and you'd loop through, and if the dot equals was true, it would return that, those weddings. It would add those weddings. If nothing is found, if there's no weddings in there, it should return null. Does that make sense? So what you could do actually there is you could say, so here it says it will return, does it say it will return a string, or what does it say it should return? Get weddings on day, which will return, search the array of weddings and return for all objects and return a wedding object.
Done. Good.
Just for interest's sake here, I found this very odd that it says all weddings that occur on that day. But there's a lake and there's a garden wedding. They created two objects. But I suppose a wedding will be lake and garden, so it'll be booking both venues, which is just very odd. But that's what it's saying. So it's a wedding object that will return. So what I suggest you do, to answer this one, thank you. What I would do for this one is I would go public. The data type would be wedding. Sorry, wedding with wedding. And you'd say get wedding on day. This is very difficult to do without control spacebar. But it would receive then through the day and then return on the day. Now, what was our equals method again? It would receive day and venue, right? So we would need to check technically the venue. We know we've got two venues, don't we? What we didn't actually book that. We booked wedding as a date, so we don't have a method called wedding. In our wedding class, did we create a method called equals? Because we're actually working with our wedding array, aren't we? Yo, this is very difficult to do without actually having coded it. Okay, so we have an equals here, day and wedding. Yes, so we do a day and venue of the wedding. Okay, so we'd actually want to return, but now it doesn't. Does this question ask me? It doesn't mention anything, the difference between if it's a garden or a objects for all weddings on a particular day. This method should return two representing the day. Method should accept two parameters representing the first representing the day and the second to represent the venue. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was mistaking that. It's also the venue that needs to be there. The method must return the object that occurs on that day and that venue. So it's going to receive through the day and the venue. That makes sense now. So we're now going to work with that. And now we're going to say, we're going to loop through our wedding. So I'm first going to say for open brackets. So you'd go for tabs. So I have a habit of that. But I'll go for open brackets and I is equal to 0 semicolon while I is less than num weddings. If you used num weddings, if you didn't, in this case we know that there are 50 weddings. So you can also just go less than 50 because it's a set number of times, so it's gotcha, but otherwise you'd use your num weddings. I plus plus, open brackets, open curly brackets, control tab, close curly brackets here. You would go if, open brackets, weddings, which I'm assuming is what you called your array, I dot equals, and we'll then just send through day, comma, venue. And if that is the case, you would simply return weddings position I semicolon control tab, control tab. Now here the weird thing is this is where some people go else return false, and it's like no, because you only check the one venue. After the for loop and you've looped through all 50 of them, you know that there's no weddings in there, then you can say, okay, I've looped through everything, there's no venues on that day, so then I could return null. Does that make sense? Okay, so then you'd return null if the venues, the weddings weren't on there. It's actually sad that I can code this without actually having. I think null might be you return null if it's Delphi it's NIL. There will only ever be. I'm not so. It's been a while since I worked with Delphi, but I think that's the case with the null. Write code to create a method called process bookings that will populate your booking array with booking day objects and return a toString for each. Do the following for the generate the date corresponding to each day in November. This one's a bit of a tricky one to generate the bookings, right? So I'm going to code this one, code it. So I'm going to go public void generate bookings. Now on this one, what we're going to have to do is first we're going to have to loop through every single month of the year. So we're looping through the array, and we know there's 30 in there. So for open brackets int I is equal to 0 semicolon while I is less than 30, because we know that less than or equal to 30 because we know there's 30 days in it. Or you can say technically, actually no, less than 30 because day 0, there's no day 0 in a month. So if I go I is less than bookings dot length, which is 30, right? You guys get that? Semicolon I plus plus, open brackets, close brackets, open curly brackets, enter, control tab, close curly brackets, control tab, control tab. So now we're looking at our bookings, and we first need to generate the string day.
So you've got 2 minutes left of teaching
now,
us ever.
For string day, we have
Continues to go.
Depends on what the WhatsApp. It depends on how much you guys WhatsApp me. Technically, teaching still can occur over WhatsApp. Anyway, so if we go there and we say we know the day is going to be R plus 1, right? Because that's going to be the day. Now, I would actually have to look at the format that they wanted the date in. So you'd make sure that your date matched the format that they had their date. So if you scrolled up here and you find the text file which contained the bookings, just somewhere up here, I'm sure they would have showed the preload. Hey, where's the preload? Oh, here it is. So it does year dash month dash day. So actually I would have done this the other way around. It would have been years, so the year is 2016 because this is a 2016 exam. So I would have done 2016. We know it's the month of November, so dash 11 dash plus R plus 1. You guys get that? So that would put the month in the exact same format. So we've generated the month. Now we know that we want the venues for the booking that's occurring there. So we would want to go, we would say wedding garden is equal to, and then we would use our get weddings on day that we created earlier. We would send through the day that we created now, and we would send through the venue garden. Does that make sense? And then for here, for the next one, when I go wedding, what was it, lake, is equal to get weddings on day, open brackets, day, comma, what's the next thing? That was lake. So it was a lake wedding or garden wedding or whatever they've got on there, and then a semicolon. So that would be that there. Now that would have generated both of those. We would then go and create, either create a method called, or we'll say, where bookings position num bookings So we would have created a counter is equal to new booking, open brackets. I don't remember all the fields that would need to be there, but garden date, sorry. So we'd have day, comma, garden, comma, lake. Oh, sorry, these should be small letters. And that would then generate the new thing on there. Now I know there's one more challenge question in this question paper, but that would have been that question pretty much answered if I've done this correctly. But it's difficult to do without seeing the code. Down here is the last one. They would have asked you to create a UE, and then they asked you to generate a table which looked like this, which was quite interesting. I will go over that in my own time, but I will continue that in this video. So we've got 15 minutes before it's an hour video. I think an hour for a 3-hour exam is okay. Okay, goodbye. Okay, this looks easy enough. It's just the fact that it's asking you to display a calendar depending on the start of the month, and every 7 it will go down a line. So it's just manipulation of loops really here. And the start day could vary depending on what you go through. So it's showing you if the 7 was passed through, what it would display, and it will come through. So now on this method, it says that you're just going to have a start date. So let's just go to a new cell here so we can work with that. So public string get calendar, I think it was called, or what? A code in the VG manager called display calendar. Okay, so to say display calendar, open brackets, close brackets, and it said it would receive int the start day. That would be received through. Oops. Then we'll close that method and Control Tab. Now, if we look at the start day, so the class called display calendar, this method should receive an int indicating the day of the week in which the first day, Friday. This method should return a string and it's in the calendar. So we think we're assuming that it's always going to be 30 days. We're going to end at 30. The calendar for a 30-day month. Okay, so we don't have a total days of that, so we know the end date will be 30. So on that, we are going to do a loops and the conditions that we'll work through. So now we know there's 7 days in a week, so we want to create a loop that would loop 7 times and then put an enter. So what I personally do is I'll create a for loop and I'll go int I is less than 7. Okay, so bear with me on this. I would create for an integer called counter, and I would start that at 1, actually at 0. Okay, I'm going to create an outer loop. Now my outer loop I'm going to do here. We want to loop at least 30 times with a maximum of 30. So as you can see here, it's looped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So there's 6 possible weeks in a month, or 6 possible week schedules. So here's the maximum case that they've actually given us an example of. So it could be, if it started first happened on a Sunday, the 30th would happen on a Monday, and that's in total 6 weeks. So a calendar month of 30 can go over 6 weeks. So I mean, there's multiple ways of solving this, but I'm happy to do that. I'm going to say well I is less than 6, so loop 1 to 5. So I know that that is going to loop that many times. So then I'm going to close the curly brackets here, and then I know each week there is going to be 7 days. So 4 open brackets. I is equal to 0, semicolon, while I is less than 6. So I've got to put the proper syntax in I plus plus. Okay, and then here for int j is equal to 0, semicolon, while j is less than 7, semicolon, j plus plus. Close brackets. Open curly brackets, enter. Actually, I could probably code this. Doesn't require much. I could actually code this in NetBeans. But I'll be interested to see how my syntax is. I want to try copy and paste it and then see what happens. Alright, so this is going to loop the number of days. Now if I go and each of into 1, I go counter plus plus, so counter plus plus. So I could then, that would increment counter by 1. So now I could say if I also need a display, so if I go here and I go string display is equal to blank, and then at the end I would return that display, so return display semicolon. I would then go in here and I would say if open brackets counter is greater than or equal to start day. So as if that day starts on day 1, it would then allow it, and it's not after the 30th. So, and where's my ampersand sign? I've lost my ampersand sign on my keyboard. That's fun. And counter is less than or equal to 30. No, that's wrong. I would actually need to create another variable, and this variable I will call int day, as in I'll start it as equal to 1. And day is less than or equal to 0. Is equal to 30, sorry. So if we're not on the 30th day, and our counter is not on before the start day, technically that can be not stop being used later on as well. So we close that. Now what we need to do is, if that is the case, what we want to do is day we've started at 1, so we would then go and say display is equal to day plus a tab. So put a tab stop in there, and then what we would do is we would display is not display, sorry, day plus plus semicolon. So each time there is we loop through here, we'll go day plus plus. Now there is an issue with that. I can't do day plus plus in here because that would cause it to be a never-ending loop. So my day plus plus should be over here, which means no matter what, it will always increment a day after it's added a day. Even if it's blank, it will just increment the day. And if the day becomes over 30, it will ignore it. Or if it's in the counter less than start day. Ooh, but now it's not going to work. Haha. Okay. Sorry. Because then what it means, the start day would happen. The days would increase even when the start day hadn't happened yet. So you'd only want the start days to increase afterwards. So that means that I can't do this in as few of statements as what I was hoping I was going to be able to do it in. So it means that I'm going to actually have to go and create this statement here separately. So I'm going to say if it's greater than the start date, then I want to go day plus plus. I'm going to start day at 0. So only if it's greater than the start date will I start my counter at 0. And then I don't know if I have that if statement. Here it is. Close the if statement. Now only if now I'll do that same if statement again. So now only if the day is less than or equal to 30, then do I want to actually display the day. Otherwise I don't want to actually add the day into that. And then at the end we are going to have after this loop, we're just going to go and say display plus equals a \n, so it'll go onto a new line. Now we needed to have the start of it, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So display here would actually be mon /t choose /t wed /t. So here I'm literally just looping through and putting a tab after each day, and when it's less than 30 and when it's not, we'll work through there. So we'll see if this works. So /t Thurs, it's fine, just GHU /t fry /t set /t sorry sun. Okay, then we need a \n at the end. Okay, so now that for me would solve it. So I'd loop through the 6 weeks. I'd loop through 7 days. So I've done 6 weeks, 7 days, right? And I've entered enter after every 7 days. I pressed enter, and during the week I've then decided, okay, when do I want to display the day? So display the day after it's past the start date. We count as past the start date, and only if then it's the day is actually within the 30 days that we're allowed to have, and then I return display. So I've coded this in Word, So yeah, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we shall see. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go across to NetBeans. I'm going to test if this works. My NetBeans shortcut has gone. There it is. I'm just going to pause the video while I open it up. So I'm just creating a test class for the main class called test on there. Sweet. So I'm just going to do this. Now I'm going to copy and paste this method into here as stands. So let me just zoom in on this so we can take a look at it. Okay, so Control V. Okay, it doesn't like that. Probably because the inverted commas. The inverted commas in Word are different to the inverted commas in Java, so just be careful of that. So same thing would be here, inverted commas and then inverted commas. The character symbol is different. So that's why all of these aren't working. Oh, I forgot a semicolon there as well. So not too bad as far as syntax is concerned. It looks okay. And then now I'm going to make this static just so it's easier to use it. So I don't have to create an instance of anything. And then here we're just going to start it. And so we're going to see it. So we're just going to start our calendar. So we're going to go, what do I call it? Display calendar, right? Display calendar. And we're going to say start date because the example was start date on day 7. So let's see what happens with that. So press play. 30. Okay. So the fact that it's displaying 30 there does not help me too much. Print line display. Wonder what's going on here. \t display 30 equals that. Display plus equals. Display is plus equals. Oops. It should be plus equals. Day plus tab. I was overriding it there. Okay, let's check that now. Hey, look at that. But now it starts on Monday, not on Sunday. So the 1 should be across here, and the reason why is because of the tab. I know why, it's stupid. Okay, so the tab should have happened on the day. Display plus tab should actually happen after each day that you add. So if it's after the start day, even if it's not, we should, every single loop here, the beginning of every single loop, we should display plus equals \t. So the tab should come into that. Even if it's not a day, it should be there. So let's semicolon that. Let's run it again. Hey, there we go. It's a little bit out of tilt because it looks like there's a tab played before the thing. So if I move this display to instead of, I should be after. That's still in the loop. That should then, there we go. Alright, so now if I change the day that we wanted to play to be 4, so it should start on a different day. Play, sweet, it runs in that. Cool, so my calendar works fine. My logic was right. Just I did it with a semicolon out or something like that. But yeah, should be good. So to go over this quickly, I set up my headings. I then will loop through the 6 weeks. I loop through 7 days in the week. I then increment my counter to determine whether it's a start day or not. So my counter will just literally go 0, 1, 2, and then until it gets to the start day. When it's on the start day, it will then actually add the day, and then it would check if it's not the end of the month. It will add it to the display. No matter what, every single time it loops, it will add a tab after the character if there is or not. So if it's blank, it will still add a tab. And then it would add an enter after the end of each week. It will add an enter and then return the display, and that display is working. So we are happy. Goodbye.